Hello and welcome to the new series of Drishti IAS. I am Pooja Devedi, and in this segment today we are going to discuss about the recent test of the cruise missile by the North Korea. This topic is important from the perspective of prelims and also from the perspective of GS mains paper. So let's begin with the topics of discussion that we are going to look at step by step. These are the topics that we are going to have a brief discussion upon, starting with the news. Now, amidst the security challenge, yet another challenge has come apart from Afghanistan for the US, that is the increasing accumulation of the nuclear arsenal of North Korea. North Korea has recently tested its first ever long-range cruise missile, and that is a cause of concern not only for the US but for everybody. Now, if we talk about the highlights, but before we go to the highlights, let's look at the location of North Korea, which is a very important location from the perspective of the informal grouping Quad, right? Quad leader level summit is going to occur soon enough in the month of September itself. And we are of course going to see, apart from Afghanistan, North Korea on the plate of the Quad members. Especially if we talk about Indo-Pacific, we have talked about Indo-Pacific a lot recently. And Indo-Pacific, this region which joins Japan with the US and India, and here is Australia. So of course this region is of special significance, and this region, if it gets unstable, we already have the tenacity of China, we already have mixed it with the nuclear arsenal of North Korea. Of course, Quad will have to talk about it. And if we talk about the Quad, we have already discussed about it yesterday. If you want to look at it, go to the in-news series and you can see on the Drishti IAS English channel. Moving on, what is the biggest important thing about this is not the first ever cruise missile test. There have been cruise missile tests before these, but they were short-range anti-ship missiles. But here, what is of specific importance is that it is the first ever long range. That means the cruise missile can go through a long range. And this is the newly developed long-range cruise missile, which is capable of moving 1000 kilometers plus away. The target can be 1000 plus kilometers away. You can talk about US in the picture. And it can hit targets 1500 kilometers away. And strategic weapon of great significance, it has been touted by the North Korean official because it is a long-range missile and because there was a UN report recently in August itself that North Korea is increasing its nuclear arsenal. Of course, it is going to be on the plate of the Quad and many other country groupings as well. So, why has this come in this time? Just move your thought process a bit. USA is already dealing with Taliban and the Afghanistan crisis. Now, in this time, the timing is very important. The timing is important because North Korea wants to show the US and other countries that not only Afghanistan is a thorn in the entire process of better international relations, stable regional security, but North Korea is also one of the security challenges that the US and the rest of the countries have to deal with. And as the US has already said that it will continue on engaging diplomatically, the Biden administration has said that we will continue to engage diplomatically and also very positively with the North Korea, and that will also include loosening out of some sanctions. So let's see what happens. Moving on, if we talk about the year 2020, before that I would like to show you the background. What is the background of it? The background starts from, it's a huge background, but we will pick out some important things, such as in 1985 when North Korea acceded to the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. Okay, that means not to use the nuclear energy in any form of weaponization, not to weaponize the nuclear energy. And in 1992, more than 6 years after the signing of the NPT, North Korea also concluded a comprehensive safeguard agreement with the IAEA. Okay, so after that, also what happened in 1994, North Korea finalized an agreement with IAEA to allow inspection. It said, okay, we will let you inspect and we will let you know that there is no fishy business that is going on in here. of all the 7 of its declared nuclear facilities. That means with the help of this, it averted sanctions by the UN. So UN was like, okay, if you are allowing the inspection, of course, this is a trust building process and we will not impose any kind of sanctions on you. In 2000, the United States conducted its second inspection. So what happened, and found out that the conditions haven't changed since the first inspection, and the North Koreans are continuously accumulating their nuclear arsenal. And in 2003, North Korea announced that it is withdrawing from the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. As you can see, the trajectory has been repleted with so many sanctions that it frustrated North Korea after a point of time, and they withdrew from the NPT. And the second major diplomatic effort, it was the 6-party talks initiated in August of 2003, which involved China, Japan, North Korea, Russia, South Korea, and United States. Important regional countries were also there. And in January 2018, another diplomatic effort began with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un when he declared that country's nuclear arsenal is complete. So there we saw the rhetorics on Twitter starting from the Trump administration, then going hence and here and there and here and there. And after that, there was a very important meeting between Donald Trump, the former US president, and Kim Jong-un. So from there, we could understand that, yes, the nuclear problems of this country, the North Korean country, it has been pacified. But no, as you can see in this article of 2020, okay, so here it is written that North Korea fires presumed short-range missiles into the sea. So it has still constantly, it is growing in its power when we talk about nuclear arsenal. And also recently, this is the recent article, Japan, US, South Korea firm efforts to denuclearize North Korea because it is a threat to the entire peninsula. Not only the peninsula of Korea, but also the Indian subcontinent and the rest of the world. Moving forward, if we talk about cruise missiles, what are cruise missiles? They are actually, according to this definition, we will let you know, but they're actually, just suppose, a missile that has a low trajectory and is moving in an aerodynamic manner, which can be guided. Okay, it can be guided, and it's a guided missile. Target can be preset and against terrestrial targets, that is. Also, it remains in the atmosphere throughout its flight. It remains in the atmosphere throughout its flight, and it's very difficult actually to have any track on this. Also, constant speed is there, and it can deliver nuclear arsenal or nuclear warhead. And it is still not known about the recent cruise missile of the North Korea, that where it has put the nuclear arsenal. So that is another thing. There are different types of basically cruise missiles. They are hypersonic cruise missile, the speed Mach 5, supersonic Mach 2 to 3 speed, and subsonic, that is Mach 0.8. Moving on, let's talk about, we have already talked about this, and I told you that North Korea has been developing the nuclear missile programs in 2021. This was according to the UN report. And UN sanctions. North Korea has been subjected to UN sanctions since the year 2006, and clearly it hasn't worked. So, the subjects of sanction were trade of weapons and military equipment, freeze of assets of people involved in the nuclear program, and restrict scientific cooperation, among other actions. Basically, the sanctions were to denuclearize the Korean peninsula, but as we all know, it hasn't helped. And of course, it is another challenge. The poverty in the country is too much. Also, ban on the export of coal and other commodities and the import of oil. So challenges is, the first challenge that we know is trust deficit. There is no trust building measures that have been taking place since the Trump administration. Of course, it was repleted with the COVID-19 pandemic and everything else, but there is a trust deficit. The trust wasn't built upon, although the Biden administration doesn't want to put any sanctions as of yet, and he is ready to engage very positively with North Korea. Maybe that will help. Failure of the UN sanctions. Of course, as we saw, the UN sanctions did not work. It actually pushed the country into poverty, and at the end, the people who actually suffered were the actual people, the citizens of North Korea. So that is another challenge. This hasn't been done yet, a challenge. This has failed, a challenge. And regional hostility, of course, it has increased the regional hostility because of the allies of the US, Japan, basically Japan, and of course other countries in the region such as Australia might also come into the picture after a while. And that is why it is very important that regional security has to be taken into account, because regional hostility is not very good, especially at this time when Taliban is already growing stronger and stronger day by day. So diplomatic channels as a way forward it should always be opened. It should remain open. Why? Because as we know, if any country is feeling threatened, it will get cornered, it will feel cornered, and it will actually group with the countries, those countries which are actually rival of the other country, enemy country. So that will of course lead to again 2 different blocks, 3 blocks. So another world war. Moving on, regional grouping should be there. Okay, regional grouping in the sense the countries which will be at the adjacent regions, which will be at the first hand suffering if any war takes place, if any escalation takes place. So regional groupings like any other grouping like quadrilateral grouping or any other grouping which can help positively to have a conclusion about the denuclearization plans. There should be a proper plan, and it should be built upon, the steps should be built upon the basic and the basic. Also, trust building treaties. Treaties should not make any country feel like a let down country. It should not make any country feel like that it might be at the losing end, because that those days are actually gone now. The world is becoming multipolar every now and then. The world that was 10 or 20, 30 years ago, it's not now. So we need to understand that treaties which are positive in nature should be built upon proper diplomatic channels with the help of Japan, China, India, South Korea, Australia, US, Russia, every country that has interest and in the stable world post-COVID should come along. Let's move on and talk about our mains-based question. So, if you can see this question, do practice it. Discuss the issues with respect to the nuclear weapon accumulation in North Korea in 250 words. Okay, so that's it for today. Tomorrow we shall meet again with another segment. Until then, stay updated and thank you so much for watching.